Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome. I'm so grateful that you're here. My name is Judy Fitzgerald, and I sit on the board of directors for the Chamber of Commerce. And I am Tina, our former deputy mayor, Tina Insko. We are heading the Government Affairs Committee. So this is the first one that we've had in a while, and this is an important one. So I'm really grateful that you're all here. We still are waiting for 2 candidates. I'm not too far away. So while they're making their way, I just wanted to go over a little bit about what it is that the Chamber does in your community, and not just in your community, but in North County in general. So again, the way I describe the Chamber is we are the bridge between business and the city and business and the community. And we're actually expanding our reach by joining with our neighboring chambers of commerce, because the commerce has no borders. So we're really trying to expand your reach by partnering with them on a lot of different things that impact North County and that benefit the businesses and that benefit our community, because the majority of the people that join the chamber are also really committed in improving the quality of life in their communities. So, and I see so many faces here of people that are very involved, and so you are the difference makers. We are going to be having monthly events. So the second Wednesday of the month, we're either going to have a Government Affairs. It's going to be every other month, Government Affairs. The following month, it's going to be the Leadership Luncheon, and we'll keep going that way. Also, we're going to be updating the newsletter. We're going to try to expand our reach on that as well, and try to plan things out far in advance that you can register, you can invite people, and plan on being here. This one, there was a little glitch, but we did get it out there, so I'm very grateful that you registered and you came. The reason that this is important as far as why we are having this forum, so our leadership matters. And the leadership that works, especially in the state assembly, whoever works with the person that is our representative is important. It impacts businesses, their ability to work together, to have a common goal, and again, looking out for your best interests. So we thought it was important to be able to provide this platform for you to get to know the different representatives, ask questions, and again, if you haven't already asked or written down a question that you want to ask, please do so. We still have a few more minutes. And again, just really know who the representatives are, the candidates. Is that mine? Turn your phones off, people.
And I'll just pick up where you left off, Judy, just in concerns for time. Hi, everybody. I'm Tina Insko. As Judy said, I was formerly on the City Council. My last position was as Deputy Mayor, which was a great honor, and I loved being of service. I thought what we would do, because Mr. DeMaio has a time limit, I'd like to do a quick introduction and then give you about 3 minutes to talk about you, and then we'll go to the questions, and when our other 2 guests arrive, we'll do the same for them. So Carl is no stranger to adversity, and I think what I'm about to read to you speaks a lot. Carl's mother passed away 2 weeks after his father abandoned their family. At age 14, he was taken in by Jesuits and was given the opportunity to earn his way to Georgetown University. He learned at a young age that no matter how bad things get, there was always a way to overcome any challenge. He is grateful to the Jesuits for instilling in him both a disciplined work ethic and a strong sense of public service. Fighting, this is a quote, fighting for what you believe in, no matter what the consequences are. So please welcome Carl DeMaio.
Thank you. It's great to be back at the Chamber. The last time we worked with the Chamber was a couple months ago. We did a forum on frivolous lawsuits, and I'm backing a constitutional amendment initiative in November, the PAGA repeal initiative, so that you don't have these shakedown lawsuits coming in where they basically say, we don't know what you've done, just show us your books and then we'll tell you what you've done wrong, which is just so predatory, and it just saps the life out of a small business owner. I'm a small business owner. I started 3 companies and actually had the odd occurrence of being able to reacquire one of my companies after I sold it and then sold it again. It's wonderful, you know, when you sell something, you hope the new buyers will know how to run it properly, and then 7 or 8 years later they come back to you saying, hey, would you like to take it back? But I know the struggles of a small business owner. I know the challenges of having to recruit and retain good employees, to deal with the issues of the operating environment, the regulations. I know how hard it is to make sure that we perform for our customer, and I know that there are times when you don't pay yourself because you have to make payroll, or you loan your company money because you still can't make payroll even after you don't pay yourself. And so my job is to make sure that small business owners have a champion, that I'm your Mr. Fix-It. And I don't care if your issue is a federal issue, a state issue, or a local issue. You come to my office. If you say, well, my business isn't located in the 75th, you come to my office. On the San Diego City Council, I got the reputation as the guy that everyone went to across the city when they had a problem, because my staff know that our job is to give voice to the voiceless. And that is exactly what I think is missing in California right now. We have many elected officials who are not very responsive, but more importantly, we only have one political party left in this state, and it is far left, and it is doing great damage. And that's why millions of Californians have fled the state of California in recent years. They can't afford to live here, they cannot stomach living here anymore. We have got to rebalance the politics, and I don't think you're going to get that with a go along, get along, mamsy-pamsy staffer from Sacramento who's been basically contaminated by the culture. I'm a fighter. This is the worst job I've ever applied for, but I'm willing to do it. I'm willing to do it. I'm willing to speak truth to power because, as my introduction suggests, I've had to deal with a lot of adversity in my life, and trying to turn around California is a tough job, but it pales into comparison to things that I had to deal with in the past. So I'm ready to do it. Put me in the game, Coach.
Thank you, Carl. And we've just been joined. Go ahead. We have just been joined by Jack J. Fernandez, who I haven't had the pleasure to meet, so thank you so much for being here. What we are doing is just a quick introduction and give you a few minutes to talk about yourself.
Terrific.
And then when we do get to the questions from the audience, and perhaps from Judy and I, it'll be about a 2-minute response time, okay?
Excellent.
Wonderful.
Okay.
So everyone, please welcome Jack J. Fernandez. I'm just going to say a little bit about you here from your bio. Fernandez was born in San Diego to an immigrant father who fled civil war and a mother with a neurodegenerative disease. Jack stocked freezers and sold his blood to go to college and then eventually to law school at UCLA, where he earned a scholarship and was a senior editor at the UCLA Law Review. Jack went on to create good-paying jobs in life sciences and biotech companies in San Diego, including Regenica Biosciences, and which was highlighted by Forbes as a medical company developing an antidote from a Nobel laureate's lab to protect our U.S. troops from chemical weapons. Jack?
Thank you, thank you. And first off, I'm sorry I'm late. I have a good excuse, I think. You judge, you all can judge now. Okay, so and Carl knows this. So tomorrow, and wish me luck, I have a big interview tomorrow with the Officer Selection Committee for the U.S. Marines to be a reservist, to apply to essentially join the reserves as a JAG officer. And I think every elected official, honestly, every public official, every city official, I think should join the reserves. And Winston Churchill said, I believe, I might butcher the quote, but to the effect of, the reservist is twice the citizen, right? It's because you have your normal life and then you go in and you serve our community, you serve our country in that way. So I'm very proud I have the opportunity to do that. But, so I was putting in 2.5 miles. I gotta get from candidate to, the Marines are very, very big on, gotta be in physical shape. So trying to do that as quickly as I can. But without further ado, my name is Jack Fernandez. I was born and raised in San Diego, proudly. I think it's the best county, I'm not going to say best city. See that? Best county that we have, right, in Southern California. The last bastion of conservatism before you literally get to another country, right, in Mexico. And that's what's so important about this seat, the 75th. This is why I ran. I picked up everything, like Carl was saying, and as business owners, as business people, I think you'll all appreciate the fact that as a 29-year-old man, I took everything that I had and I put it on the line in this race. And for over a year, I was running mano against the machine, literally as just a citizen like you all, saying, you know what, like Carl said, time to put truth to power. I don't like the way that career bureaucrats are ruining our county. I don't believe they have the best interests of North and East County at heart. I don't believe they understand the perils, the unique perils we face as people who live in what they consider to be rural areas of San Diego, which, by the way, you all know, Escondido to the downtown Democrat is rural. That's what they think. They literally, that's how out of touch these people are. And the Sacramentarians are even worse. And Andrew Hayes is not here. Ronald Reagan's 11th commandment, you don't speak ill of fellow conservatives, and especially now when we're in a super minority, I'm not going to do that. But what I will say is, this young gentleman is 9 days apart in my age. Our mothers were pregnant in San Diego at the same time. Think about that, 9 days. We're basically a week apart. And for a full year, I was going against him because I'll tell you my story and I'll tell you what he was doing. I think it's a unique contrast that's necessary here. So as I said, was born here. I was born to a father who fled civil war. He was from Angola. It was a Portuguese colony. The communists in the mid-1970s took it over. So he had to come over here or fight basically as a child soldier. So he washed dishes for 25 cents an hour, went out to be a commercial fisherman, took what he learned in the basically in the engine room of a boat after a severe injury from a hydraulic pump, came and worked in a factory under the Coronado Bridge. And that's where my story begins. My mother has multiple sclerosis. She lost the ability really to walk and could not work. So I believe that is basically in America among the humblest beginnings you can have. They taught me, to be honest, to work hard, and about this thing we know, the American dream, this like amorphous term. But I think each of us, and let's just do a show of hands here, each of us has probably lived a part of the American dream. So I'm gonna say, do we have anybody here who's an immigrant? Okay, we have an immigrant. We have 2 immigrants. Do we have anyone who has parents who are immigrants? Okay, we've got a couple more. Now, I like this part, grandparents who are immigrants. All right, so we're all basically one stretch removed, right, from an immigrant. And so I worked hard, humbly. I stocked freezers. I was a deckhand. Does anyone know the Bahia Bell? Has anyone been on the booze cruise? Don't have to put your hands up, but I pumped the septic tanks at 3 o'clock in the morning, so you can thank me for your fun time. But then I even sold my blood because I had no money. I had to figure out how to prove myself. And I took admissions tests. I was the first in my family to go to college. I got a scholarship to UCLA Law. I wrote onto the Law Review. After a grueling week process, I became a senior editor on the Law Review, son of an illiterate factory worker, right? Only in America. That is, to me, the American dream. And so very quickly, I passed the bar. I passed the real estate broker's exam, and then I created a company, Regenica, as you mentioned. My mother's name's Regina, and we live in the greatest country in the world, America. That's where the name comes from, Regenica. Thank you.
Thank you very much,
So,
Jack.
yeah.
I think we have an update from Judy.
No, regarding how we're going to continue in this. So Tina's going to ask the questions, and each candidate's going to have, I think, as we said, 2 minutes. On this one, it's not going to be about bashing each other. We really are interested in hearing about your position, and everyone can just speak on their own position with that. And then also, if you have any questions, again, please write it down. No commentaries, and so just being civil and exchanging information.
And do we have any more arrivals? Or should we move forward?
I think we should go ahead.
Great.
And
Great.
Yes, let's move forward.
Okay, well, so far I have one question turned in. Of course, Judy and I are not unprepared with questions, but does anyone else have one right now you'd like to hand to me? Okay, great.
Just paper.
Yeah,
If you need paper, then.
I'll wait
Yes,
this
there's
one
paper
about
up
30
towards the front.
seconds.
I believe we have David.
I'll wait this one about 30
Okay.
seconds.
Okay, so we will start with you, Jack, and we will go back and forth so everybody gets a chance to answer the question first. So this particular question is, what are the hurdles regarding voter ID?
The hurdles are that Democrats want voters to not have to provide ID. That's the hurdle. And we live in a Democrat supermajority. We live in a totalitarian state in California, and this is not to say that there's anything wrong with being a Democrat, but unfortunately for many people in my generation, like I said, at 29 years old, it's not okay to be conservative. You're allowed to be a Democrat. If you're a Republican and you say it publicly, you're going to be castigated. You're going to be extricated from the groups in which you're participating, and you're probably going to be chastised by your family and your friends if they even speak to you anymore.
So 2 parts.
Yeah.
How would you suggest it be resolved?
Very simple. Mandatory identification to vote. So the problem is, the hurdle is that Democrats, the party in power, are putting forward legislation so that you don't have to provide ID to vote. The solution is to have to provide ID to vote. It's common sense. If you have to have ID to drive a car, you have to have identification to do really most major things in our society. How is it that the greatest act of civic engagement, to actually vote for your elected official, doesn't require identification? It's absurd, and I know Carl agrees with me on this, so.
Well, let's hear from Carl.
Yeah, I mean, we need to get voter ID because we have to restore public trust and confidence in our elections. People say, oh, it's perfectly fine. You know what, then why are you worried about voter ID? If you think it's perfectly fine, then just join us and let's do voter ID, because it's a way of restoring public trust and confidence in our elections. And that's why I've authored a state constitutional amendment, filed it in August of 2023, called the California Voter ID Initiative. It requires proper maintenance of our voter rolls, removal of people who leave the state, which, by the way, right now we're not doing it, and a lot of you probably know you're getting erroneous ballots sent to your home because we don't do proper list maintenance. It also requires a higher standard for signature review. We did a report through the Transparency Foundation showing that there's a wide variation in signature reviews across counties. And so some counties are accepting all the signatures willy-nilly, other counties are actually doing their job. And so we need California voter ID so that we can fix the problems of deficiencies in the way in which our elections are being held. I do not like hearing people saying, what's the matter? You know, my vote doesn't count anyway, the goose is cooked, I'm not going to return my ballot. That's the death of our democracy. We cannot allow that. Now, there are politicians who say, oh, I'm for voter ID, and then they sit on their rear end and do nothing. I'm in the trenches. I filed the initiative after authoring the initiative and working with legal scholars. And now we're recruiting the volunteer base so that we can get the 1 million signatures done. Jack, thank you for helping us with that. Jack and I partnered on a number of things. Don't vote for him in this election, but but he's actually jumped in and helped us with that California Voter ID Initiative. The guy here, or who's not here, has refused 11 times to even back or endorse California voter ID. I don't understand why.
Okay, well, thank you for the answer, but I'm going to let you go ahead and start first on this next question.
Okay.
Sean is here from J&M Families Restaurant. Thank you for your question. And it looks like there's...
We used to have the Republican events there, the Central Committee events.
Oh, yeah.
And,
Thank you for doing that as well.
ECC Government Restaurant.
Nice.
It
Love
was
it.
my parents' favorite restaurant.
Oh, great.
God bless them.
Very 20% discount card.
So he is currently in the middle of an ADA violation lawsuit.
Yeah.
I'm sorry about that. How are you addressing these drive-by type litigations? And apparently over 2,000 cases have been filed by the same attorney. Thank you for the question.
Thank you for the question, because this chamber and I partnered just a few months ago on the frivolous lawsuit forum. We need to educate businesses first as to what their risk exposure is. And I always open up our forums with some bad news. You're already in violation of either state labor law or state ADA law or some sort of cause of action that will get you a Private Attorney General's Act lawsuit filed against you. And these are very costly. The PAGA lawsuits are about $500,000 per business. And they find stupid, insane violations. Like one business owner, did you know that you have to keep your restroom temperature to a certain amount? It cannot be under 68 degrees. It cannot be over 79 degrees. Or else you've committed a labor law violation.
Yes.
This is insane.
That's the
Yes, this is insane. And so we're trying to educate business owners that here are some things that you can do to try to protect yourself, but there's no shield because you can't possibly know all the stupid regulations that the state of California has imposed on you. It's just predatory, and it just destroys these small business owners who sit there and say, this is a shakedown, and I've lost everything. And the lawyer's laughing, saying, well, you know, maybe $250,000. They're literally bleeding you out of your last drop of blood. And that's why we're losing so many good business owners. So that's why I worked with the coalition to put the PAGA reform initiative on the ballot. It would allow you 30 days to cure. As long as you haven't violated the same rule previously, everyone will get a do-over. And that's a fair system. It protects workers, it protects our customers, but it also is reasonable to allow a small business owner a 30-day cure period. And if they can cure it, fine. I mean, it's predatory. This is a shakedown, and it needs to be called out for what it is.
I want to clarify the question because we were exposed to the calamity, and I apologize to J&M that you have to deal with this kind of litigious society, but the question specifically is...
So he's in the middle of this ADA violation lawsuit, and wants to know how you would, if elected, address these drive-bys, as we call them, because this particular attorney, believe it or not, has either already done or in the process of doing 2,000 cases, which you can see is just beyond ridiculous.
Yeah, no, it is.
Just to give you a kind of highlight on that. What is cool about it is that I'm a business broker, so I've done a lot of these cases where I sold a business and liability, and they can do cast report, which protects you a little bit. But the strategy is that legally it's a $10,000 per violation, a BD violation. Their strategy, they sent me a letter selling for $4,000. Went back, so because I called my attorney, it cost me $5,000 just to retain an attorney.
Yeah.
And they know that.
Yeah.
So it really is a scam in the sense that
it is.
they make you an offer, almost force you to take that, because others decided that our attorney is going to cost you $5,000, even though it's a minimum case. It's over a handicap seating on patio table. There's a comfort table, you have to have 36 clearance. Irony is that the previous owner got approved through the city of the building with a 80 approved. But it does not give you 30-inch depth, so it almost puts me in a position where I settled it today. So I'm trying, and I know about 5 other people who do the same thing, and we need to try to get it.
Absolutely.
Well, let's hear from Jack.
I will reset your time.
No problem. I mean, I appreciate you sharing that story. I think more people need to hear about how individual businesses are affected by these crazy onerous legislation. I mean, we live in an extremely litigious state, which is in part why 500,000 Californians have left in the past 2 years. It's more than just not being able to afford to live here. It's not being fully having any belief in elected officials to make a difference. And a lot of the Republicans who are elected feel like it's not even worth their time or effort to try to kind of reform this. But I'm an attorney by education. It's something I take extremely seriously. I think I have a very small personal anecdote that, my own parents who donated to my campaign, not wealthy, blue collar, right? I mean, I came from a working class home. And Shirley Weber, we get a nice little letter saying, oh, you didn't file, this
Major donor report.
Major donor report, right? And you know what? They wanted to fine my parents like several $1,000s. My treasurer we send a letter back and they say, oh, our mistake, you were actually in the right. You know what? You don't owe us anything. And so that kind of begs the question, how much of this is death by, like you said, death by 1,000 paper cuts, right? They know that in certain situations, it's not worth the time and effort, we'll just kind of pay it off. Very quickly, the bigger picture here is the totalitarian state trying to control your life. I believe in a free market. I think most of us do. The best way to allow businesses to thrive is to basically let them operate. If a person like my mother, who is handicapped, for instance, found an establishment that wasn't suitable for her, I mean, in theory, she would just not go there. She would find one that is. So I think we need to try to roll back any legislation that's hostile on the small business and just start talking more about what it would look like to allow businesses in the market to actually operate without the foot of the leftist state on their throat. So, I could go on about this all day.
I know.
It's really why I'm running for office. This is why I'm running.
So you are warmed up, and
Yeah.
you get this first one. So here's the next question. What are the most pressing, in your opinion, issues in the office which you are going for? And will it be a big challenge for you, a small one, whatever your thoughts are? And then if you can say, what are your goals regarding perhaps this biggest issue that you are concerned about?
Absolutely. So I think the issues really in three kind of broad buckets that we also did a lot of polling before anyone was focused on this race. Keep in mind that now it's kind of the apex, right? We have a couple of weeks till the election. My campaign committee, we opened on January the 3rd of 2023. So that's how long I've been campaigning full time, going through the county, talking to voters, talking to business owners, talking to legislators, trying to figure out what the pain points are and how we can actually effectively address them. So the three are this. Number one, we know there are severe economic problems that we're facing. This is not limited to living in a state that's hostile to business ownership. It's a mess. It's our inflation. It's the fact that we don't have legislators who have any business experience whatsoever. So the way that I want to address that is simply by being a new voice, a little bit different than what we see. Most legislators typically come from a career political background. Most of them in the legislature in California are typically staffers, like the gentleman who is supposed to be here, who kind of just level their way up in politics. Here we go. So number two, a huge one is going to be public safety. You cannot have a business, period. It doesn't matter how favorable the legislation is to promoting your business interest if you have broken windows, you have transients. I was on the way over here and I saw three working age men smoking something out of a glass pipe on the side of the road. We need to hold criminals accountable for their actions. And that includes people who are doing drugs and destroying our businesses simply by bringing crime and narcotics to that. And finally, we need to secure the southern border. That is a big piece. That is because of human trafficking, it's because of narco trafficking, it is also because of illegal immigration. And I just want to point out that the Democrats that we have in our race actually think it's a good idea for us, and this is not a joke, to subsidize the college education of non-citizens, of illegal immigrants. So it starts really with a strong pro-business voice, in my opinion.
So the issues facing Californians are just a multitude. And my job is going to have to be to address each and every one of them. And yes, I have to do that every day on radio. I have to do that at Reform California. We've got, campaigns running on stopping the mileage tax, campaigns running on the Private Attorney General's Act and repealing the frivolous lawsuits, homelessness initiative, stopping the Prop 1 scam that's on our ballot, stopping tax increases. And so I have to be a jack of all trades. And so the issues that Jack just pointed out absolutely are the top three. Affordability, public safety, and securing the border. Those top three are paramount. But all the other issues are also important, because if it's impacting you right now, like that ADA lawsuit is probably at the top of your list. And so my job is to make sure that we are responsive. But how do I bridge the gap to what is really the problem? And that is, we have a broken political system in California. People are fleeing because they've given up hope. They love this state, the beautiful weather, everything, their family, their business has been here, but they are reluctantly leaving. Why? Because they have no hope. They've given up hope because they see the Democrats are ruining things, and they see Republicans cowering in a closet whimpering. That's the best way for me to describe most of our California Republicans, the ones that we have left. And so I'm running because I believe we need to breathe new life into the opposition party. Not the Republican Party, the opposition party. I want to give voice to the voiceless in Sacramento so they can hear me, they can hear their opposition, and they will have hope. But more importantly, I'm going to start moving the needle. Here in Escondido, we moved the needle by replacing Paul McNamara with Dane White. I recruited Dane. Nobody thought Dane could win. We got behind him. He was a great candidate, and he's doing good work now at City Hall. By flipping this seat, we also flipped Carlsbad and La Mesa seats. We stopped the mileage tax. Now, did we get a majority on the Sandag board? No. But you know what? There's a little axiom in politics. Politicians don't care about your job until their job is on the line. And so when we started giving pink slips to some of these Democrat politicians backing the mileage tax, we didn't need to get to a majority. We inflicted pain, and they saw it coming, and they stopped the mileage tax, at least for now. Now, this one right here, who shall not be named, is claiming credit for the mileage tax defeat. For God's sake, he can't even show up to the chamber
From the
meeting.
school board,
And he's a staffer being paid right now to show up to a meeting like this. It's offensive.
Okay, well, you almost have X-ray vision because you started to answer this next question.
There you
but
go.
I'm gonna go in and-
I was eating into my time for the next question. You can tell me now.
I'm going to give you a chance to, extrapolate on it and then let Jack have a chance. So this says, my family and I are contemplating moving out of state in a few years.
Don't. Stay. Fight.
Okay, you answered the question. Oh, is this your handwriting,
It is,
Jonathan?
sorry, yes. I can read it for you.
This is our home, and I think it speaks for a lot of people in the room. We'd rather not, but it's becoming much harder to stay. My question is it worth it to stay and fight and bring balance back, or are we too far gone?
I have a whole 30-minute video on my YouTube channel as to why you should not flee California, why you should stay and fight. I understand why people want to flee. I totally get it. They sit there and they see pictures of their friends back in Texas or Tennessee, $3 a gallon gas, and they're like, oh, I could give me some $3 a gallon gas right now. But let me tell you right now, your government can change. But humidity does not change. Alligators don't change. Mosquitoes don't change. And by the way, I have a lot of friends who moved to Arizona and Nevada in 2008, 2010, 2012 who are now saying, oh, I can't stand it here anymore. I got to move because too many liberal Californians followed me out the door. Here's my challenge at Reform California. We are converting voters every day. Independents, Democrats, a lot of Latinos moving our direction. But when someone leaves the state of California, I now have to recruit 2 people to move the needle 1 notch. And so I'm telling you, stay and fight. The cost of selling your home, uprooting your life, changing your career, all of those costs, and the fact that when you move there, the contagion will follow you. We must stand and fight and take our state back. And that's why I'm doing this. I did not want, this was not on my bingo card. But when I finally got to the point where I was like, look, if I don't do this now and reinvigorate the opposition party and start moving the needle and giving people hope, then I might be packing my bags in 5 to 10 years. And I'm not willing to do that. I'm going to go down fight, and I'm hoping you'll join me.
Jack.
Yeah. What's your name?
Oh, John.
Jonathan. You have a couple kids?
1 and 1 boy.
Oh, congrats.
Yeah.
Boy or girl you have right now?
Boy.
You know-
Both are boys.
You have 2 boys?
Yeah.
All right. Wow. Yeah, it's an interesting time to be a parent, I can imagine, in society in California, in San Diego. But I want to point out, and this is why I ran for this seat. North and East County are not California in terms of culture, values, principles, and quality of life. It is not representative of the entirety of the state. It is a model that we can use to transform the state. It starts in San Diego County. And every time we lose a good person, a business owner, like Carl said, a good voter who's voting on common sense issues, it's really, really hard to dig ourselves back out of that trench. So a lot of what we do now as candidates is try to convert acolytes, basically. That's a huge part of the job and why I went full time. You're out there trying to basically turn a blue state into a red state, starting in the county. Do not leave California. Do not leave San Diego. Absolutely not. Because just on a purely moral basis, any time that you allow truth and nature to be overcome by what we all know to be absurdity, that's something that is just anathema to how we should live our lives. Now, I want to say one very quick thing in sum. I'm an example of what you can do when you put your mind to making a small change in an area that's really important to you. North and East County. I did not want to see an anointed staffer take our last and only Republican safe seat and the only representative seat potentially in California representing the southern border. I built a campaign from the ground up over a year. I built a campaign team of 5. I raised $250,000. I got endorsements. I learned how this process worked. And now look, the legendary Carl DeMille is running in the race. I mean, respectfully, I don't think that this momentum would have been built if one person didn't kind of go forward and say, I don't want to leave California. My dad fled a civil war to get here. We got to fight back. So I'm not trying to give myself any praise here. I'm just trying to say, man, that the things we can do if we work together are incredible. Don't leave.
Thank you both. Carl does have a schedule he has to stick to, so this will be our last question. But it's a doozy. Thank you, Ed, for this question. Prop 64 passed in 2016, which, as you know, legalized cannabis for adults in California. To date, under 50% of local governments have granted any permits for cannabis businesses. This continued prohibition has allowed the illegal/unregulated cannabis businesses to thrive. What is your solution to bring local governments into compliance with California state policy to establish a legal and regulated cannabis business? So let's see, Jack, I think you get to take it first.
Yeah, so first and foremost, and I don't mean to sound like I'm totally out of the loop here, but at 29, I feel like, as a young person saying this, hopefully it'll have a little credence. This is not a harmless component of our culture when you see people recreationally consuming cannabis. I believe, actually, my hot take for this day is that the most normalized addiction in society is recreational pot use. That's my opinion. And it's going to contribute, I believe, continuously to the degradation of the West, which we're already seeing rapidly. The one thing that Assemblywoman Marie Waldron has really done recently is fought to now, I guess, her new platform is to bring psychedelics now kind of into the conversation and to legalize therapeutic use, which I'm okay with, but then that will lead eventually, as we saw with marijuana, to recreational use legally of psychedelics. Now, without kind of going too deep into the question on a legislative standpoint, we are even seeing legal marijuana businesses leave the state because of how hostile it is, again, California is to the small business. But I don't know if this is necessarily, at this moment, the hill that I want to die on as a politician. I don't believe that making things easier for recreational drugs to be sold into society and used socially is going to be a good thing long term. And I'm sorry, I understand many people may disagree with me on that.
Timothy Leary lives again.
What was that?
Timothy Leary lives again. You don't remember him.
Probably
Way too young.
Look, as a gay Republican, I'm a live and let live guy. But on the issue of drugs, Californians were scammed with Prop 64. Do you for a moment think that this state is regulating illegal drug use? I mean, as you just mentioned, I mean, people are out in front of your store, it's in front of your business, and they literally are high on drugs. They're doing drugs. They're doing meth, cocaine. We're hearing kids dying of overdoses of fentanyl drugs. The same people who said, oh, no, let's legalize it, it's safe and regulated and legal. These people have lied to us and they have scammed us, and it is that slippery slope. I do believe that by becoming a permissive culture with drugs, and again, I'm all for fun, okay? Live and let live. Go and have yourself a wonderful time. But when these people are using drugs to such an extent that they no longer can function, and that's why we have a homeless population, the type that we do. Do you know that California's street price of drugs is the lowest of anything, of any state in the country? I finally found one product that's the cheapest of any state in California, and it is illegal drugs.
Right?
It's illegal drugs. Why? Because we don't enforce. And of course, we're right next to that porous border. And so it is time that Republicans speak up on this issue. They're like, oh, well, I guess, people, what's wrong with pot? This has been an utter failure. Also, you want to talk about mass shooters? I want a toxicology report on every mass shooter within 24 hours of their victim.
I'd like to see.
I want a 24-hour requirement. I talked to a Democrat about that who's for gun control. Well, there's HIPAA laws. Don't even quote me HIPAA laws. This person has killed a mass shooting situation. I want to know what drugs they were on. Pharma or illegal, I want to know what they were on. I guarantee you that most of the carnage in this country has been driven by people with mental illness. But it's exacerbated by that drug because people with mental illness, it's a dual diagnosis issue, and we've got to start addressing this issue at the core. We got to repeal Prop 64, we got to repeal Prop 47, and once again go back to enforcing drug laws.
Thank you. Jack, if Judy is okay and if you're willing, we do have a couple more questions.
Sure, and if it's okay, I'd love to eat. I haven't eaten.
Oh,
It's one. I did my 2.5 miles. I haven't eaten anything.
I think there's still some food back there.
Yeah.
So
No, I'll grab it as long as they keep it out for me. Yeah.
So I believe we have a couple people in the room who are represented in District 75. Am I correct? Could you raise your hands if you are?
What?
People who live there, is that what you're saying?
Yes.
So anyone like Ramona, Poway, Fallbrook, Bonsall, Valley Center,
Unincorporated Escondido.
Unincorporated
South?
Escondido
Right.
to the,
There was someone, yes, Connie. So the question that we came up with was, will you make it a strong imperative, if you are elected, to work with the other assembly members who we are represented by here in this room, to push legislation that will impact Escondido businesses and the North County?
Quite frankly, my ideology on this is less is more, and to the contrary, like my biggest reason for running is not to put forward more government into your life or to support my colleagues, Republicans or Democrats. Yeah, to put more legislation. It's to roll back hostile legislation. I think that a beautiful thing about Escondido is there's still some semblance of a little bit of freedom. I mean, we have now with Dane, I think that'll be an interesting new horizon for us. But I mean, absolutely anyone, and this is the thing. So I'm actually the one Republican candidate, and I think Carl will reluctantly agree to this, or that I'm the one Republican who has actually met with Democrats and no party preference people. And really it's because I'm a pragmatist. I want to go and do an effective job. And if we know you're in a totalitarian state, yes, the end solution is going to be for us to have a more balanced political institution. But on day one, you're stepping into the lion's den. And you need to be able to effectively communicate with the people who are, like Lori Davis. I just gave a speech right after her at Save America PAC last week and had a chance to talk to her a little bit. So building those great relationships and, and this is an interesting thing, I think, a very, very delicate piece. If you are this is, by the way, this seat, it's our last and only Republican safe seat in all of San Diego County. We don't talk about that a lot. That's why I originally went to run for it. This most likely, and God bless Lori Davies, I wish her the best, but this will most likely be the sole Republican Assembly person for all 3.3 million people in San Diego County. Yes, so that's why I stepped up to run. Seriously, it's pretty absurd. But I guess in conclusion on this point, I was endorsed by the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers. I was endorsed by the San Diego Building Trades. These are massive labor unions that typically a Republican wouldn't be endorsed by. Now, the really unique thing about that is I didn't have to compromise on my morals or my positions as a pro-business conservative to get those endorsements. What I did, as well as with Local 18, the elevator construction union, I showed up. I said, I'm extending my hand, potentially, of friendship. If you're willing to basically be reasonable, I think that says something, and I want to point that out, yeah. So anyway, sorry.
Thank you, Jack. Judy?
Yes, thank you. Again, thank you so much for coming, and I
Thank
know
you for
Carl
having
had to leave real
you.
quick, so if you guys want to give him a round of applause for. Also, real quick, I want to say a big thank you to today's event sponsor. It is Don Romo from Hilbers Incorporated. So if you want to come up and say a word.
You all know me, thank you. I really appreciate you coming actually and speaking today, Jack. It's very refreshing.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
It's a completely different perspective from Carl's, and I think your youth and enthusiasm is going to be powerful for you.
Thank you for saying that. And to that, I want to say, if I don't prevail in this race, kind of my closing is this. Please remember what I did, why I ran for this. It was because we had no strong conservative candidate at the time that I was running to fill this seat, from my perspective. Carl stepping in changed the dynamic immensely. And I'm proud that the momentum that I was able to bring and the attention I was able to bring to this race went to Politico. It went to the Union Tribune. It went to, it's crazy, right? No one knew what the 75th really was in the assembly race. And then gradually it started becoming kind of more of a focus. So if I don't prevail in this primary, please know, I'm not here, this is my life now. I've consciously decided my vocation is to do anything I can to help San Diego County. That includes Escondido, even though that's not where we're technically running. So please reach out to me. It's kind of my mission is to preserve this county that I feel like gave me everything. And again, last but not least, don't give up. Keep the faith. Don't lose hope. If you have kids, grandkids, you have to continue to instill in them those values that make Escondido so great. Freedom, liberty, hard work, belief in the American dream and starting businesses. And please stay tuned, because for me, respectfully, this is the beginning. And very grateful. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. And just a real quick shout out, if you guys liked your sandwiches, Deanna is gluten-free. I know everyone's heard of it. Well, she just opened up Deanna's Kitchen. So this was from Deanna's Kitchen that went in the paper. So grab lunch, Jack. Thank you, please. And I think